Hello, I am Pastor Chad Kohlmeyer from Atonement Lutheran Church and here for a conversation on the book The Acts of the Apostles for Confirm You. So, Acts is the fifth book of the New Testament. It's right after the four Gospels. And we ask, what's in a name? Well, often it's just called Acts, but it's not just that. It's actually called the Acts of the Apostles. And when we hear that title, we know that there is action, right? Something is being acted upon. Something's happening. People are doing something. Also, what is an apostle, right? Apostle simply means a person who is sent. In this case, one sent to share the message of Jesus. So the people who are sent to share the message of Jesus are doing something. Well, this book comes from a man named Luke. You might recognize that name because he wrote one of the Gospels also. And he was very interested in documenting the actions of these people. The Acts of the Apostles is really the second part of a two-part series. The Gospel of Luke tells this story of Jesus, his birth, life, death, and resurrection. And Acts continues the story of the earliest followers of Jesus after his death and resurrection. This group of followers of the way, as they called it, believed that Jesus was the Messiah, the one sent by God to redeem the world. So in Luke chapter 24, we are told that some of these followers went to Jerusalem and other areas to share this name. Here's Jerusalem on this map. In addition, in Matthew 28 and John 21, we learn that others went to the areas by the Sea of Galilee, which is just north of there in Jerusalem. This is to say there were groups in a lot of different places following Jesus and seeking to live by his teachings. And I want you to see this larger picture of the Mediterranean area because the area I just pointed out is really small right now. But the church was growing. It was just beginning. And the followers of the way would spread the message to this entire area. So in John chapter 20 again, we learn of Jesus' promise to be with the disciples always through the presence of the Holy Spirit. Jesus breathes on them and says, receive the Spirit. The Spirit would remind them of all the things Jesus had taught them and all of the things he had done. The beginning, the book of Acts picks up on this. The message of this book and these people is that the Holy Spirit was very active among them. Chapter 2 in Acts tells of the day of Pentecost. And in addition to being a Jewish holiday, it also just means the number 50. It is exactly 50 days after Easter. And on Pentecost, the Spirit descends on the people as they are praying, and they begin to speak and give messages in other languages. So a few verses from Acts chapter 2. When the day of Pentecost had come, they were all together in one place. And suddenly from heaven there came a sound like the rush of a violent wind, and it filled the entire house where they were sitting. Divided tongues as a fire appeared among them, and a tongue rested on each of them. All of them were filled with the Holy Spirit and began to speak in other languages as the Spirit gave them ability. All were amazed and perplexed, saying to one another, what does this mean? But others sneered and said, they are filled with new wine. A little bit later, in chapter 2, Peter addresses those gathered with him. So Peter says, but Peter, standing with the 11, raised his voice and addressed them, men of Judea and all who live in Jerusalem, let this be known to you and listen to what I say. He continues on to tell them the story of Jesus' death and resurrection and how that changed everything. this message and gift of the Holy Spirit on all kinds of different people would be threatening to some. It would mean that it was not just for insiders. The Holy Spirit would be falling where it will, gifting people and spreading the message of Jesus, spreading the message of salvation in Jesus for all people. Here's a couple pictures that I found. Both of them were without a source of the art, and I could not find that. I apologize. But I invite you to pause the video now and take a look at these two pictures and think about what it is that you notice in the picture. What is unique about it? What strikes your interest? I invite you to share with others what you noticed in your small group gatherings or those who you are gathered with. The next video in Acts is going to talk more about leadership in this movement and how God would use their acts, their works, to spread the message of salvation in Jesus to all people. We will see you later for that one. Thanks for joining me.